Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a fantastic Saturday and a great weekend so far. Today, we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, where we not only look at the cryptocurrency realm, but we also venture out into traditional finance and global events. And that's exactly what we're going to be covering in this video. We're going to be going over some of the main headlines that are circulating about, and relate this all to markets as a whole, and certainly the cryptocurrency market, as we are now a more mature, more tethered to market as we've grown in terms of market cap, and we're still seen as a very risky asset. And what will affect the traditional financial world will undoubtedly have more of a substantial effect on such a small market cap, smaller liquidity, newer, riskier asset like crypto. So this is one. We're going to go over a number. The Bank of England upped their interest rates. Now, this, of course, is ahead of the United States, who are going to do it next year once they've stopped bond purchasing and adding to the Fed balance sheet. So they've kind of jumped the gun here. What we're going to do in this video that's going to be rather interesting once we've kind of gone over the main headlines is we're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to look at the Bitcoin chart. And we're going to look at it in a number of different ways. Now, this is the Bitcoin USD chart, which is the kind of champion chart. US dollar is the kind of standard currency around the world. It's the world reserve currency, and it's why we use it. It's the most widely used currency. But what I'm actually going to do in this video is take a look at the US dollar versus the Great British Pound, the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar. Bitcoin versus the Canadian dollar, Bitcoin versus the Great British Pound, Bitcoin versus the Euro. And this is the really interesting one, Bitcoin versus the Turkish Lira. The Turkish Lira is having a bit of a nightmare right now. Turkish Lira is something I've followed for a while in terms of a currency. The currency market is the overlord of markets. It's got trillions, I think $7 or $8 trillion sloshes around each day in that particular market. So it's the overlord of markets, if you will. And what happens in that world will be echoed down into whatever financial system or commodity or equity you're in. And the Turkish lira slides ahead of likely interest rate cuts. So Erdogan is famously, and I think it's because of religious reasons, he actually doesn't want to up interest rates, and he's kept them at a record low. Now, this damages, certainly given everything that's happened recently and the economic downturn and the somewhat lack but abundance of stimulus. This is damaging their currency, and their currency is becoming very weak and getting devalued very, very fast. And you can see Bitcoin, in association with it, is going on, actually put in a new high yesterday, in opposition with some of the other currencies that we compare Bitcoin against that are still in a downtrend, some more than others. Certainly, if we look at, for example, the South African Rand, you can see that it's not doing as badly as some of the other currencies. So they all have their own kind of flow. Back to, this is the Ftse. We can see the Ftse having a bit of a down day again. This is causing havoc in the UK. I know other countries are in lockdown, because the real fear is that we end up in a March 2020 situation. Now, I'm not worried about this in regards to investing in crypto. March 2020 turned out to be one of, and I'm going to keep saying it, the most bullish events that the cryptocurrency market saw, because it saw a huge inflationary pressure on the monetary systems getting proliferated, and people looked to hedge their bets in Bitcoin. And this is going to link in with the Turkish Lira and why, crypto for me is it's the new thing, if you will. But we will get into that. So let's take a look at the overall market. We're at $2.2 trillion, still very small in terms of an overall market cap for an asset class. Seeing much indecision within markets, kind of up, down. Not seeing anything too spectacular. We're kind of still downtrending, yet to break away from that. You guys know the play that I think Bitcoin is essentially, and I think we're in some sort of a rising wedge / rising triangle, ascending triangle that I think we're going to break out of. I don't think we enter a bear market. There's no confirmation of a bear market to date, and I can't really see any until we start putting in lower lows and lower highs. Remember, we've actually not done that. We've gone on to put in higher highs and higher lows. Certainly in this trend over here, I'm still hanging fire. And really with markets, if we look, for example, at the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, 24, markets are in extreme fear. This says a lot to me. The Fear and Greed Index is really what sums retail up. because they're very much bipolar with their emotions. Whereas if they understand what they're investing in, and it's why we're going to bring the Turkish Lira up, you know, what's the real value proposition with Bitcoin? Well, one is that it's early. Another that it is a substantially, in my opinion, better system than the monetary policies that, or the fiat systems that we currently have in place, because they're all failing. Some of them are failing at a higher rate, some of them are failing at a lower rate. There's no benchmark or goalpost with them. Whereas with Bitcoin, we have something that represents itself as a better store of value than these currencies. Would it even work as a currency? I mean, this is a very interesting topic. Bitcoin on its base layer, not Lightning or anything like that, which is a layer on top of Bitcoin, wouldn't work very well as a currency at all. So it's a better store of value, but you know, there's so much to discuss in relation to the crypto space, and certainly Bitcoin. So this is where markets are at. This links in with, of course, the UK reports the highest number of daily cases since this all began. The UK reported a record number of new cases on Wednesday, with 786,610 in the last 24 hours. It underlined a dramatic surge in infections that the country is seeing ahead of the holiday period. So we know we've got Christmas coming up, where people tend to mingle, we'll have parties and so on and so forth. And they're kind of worried about a massive rate of infection, given what we've already seen, and this being amplified by this. So this, of course, has, and we can see here, we've got a chart of it. Whether you believe these statistics or not is up to you guys to make your own decisions. I'm not going to weigh in on my own opinions on this whole situation. It's just simply because they're my opinions. This isn't a channel based on truth seeking necessarily. I mean, it is and it isn't, but this isn't a channel where we're not going to get into this debate. Certainly on YouTube, I've got my own very, very strong opinions on this, but I'll let you guys make your own mind up. Certainly, I'm not going to go on and go forth with my opinions on here, as this is a cryptocurrency investing channel. So we can see that this is playing havoc. We've got the Bank of England that raised their rates. Inflation came in extremely high for the UK and the Bank of England. This is the thing with interest rates. They've upped it by 0.15%. So not a huge interest rate hike. And the reason they can only do these marginal, even though inflation is at such a high rate, these marginal hikes for the interest rates is because they are too leveraged. Everything nowadays is too leveraged. There's a lot of borrowed money in the system. And certainly, for example, I have a number of mortgages. I've made sure they're all on fixed rates for 10 years. Some are 5, but the ones that are shorter will get paid off before those interest rates end, because interest rates have been ridiculously low. But if they start to up interest rates by any sort of significant figure, and even that 0.15% has a big effect, certainly on long borrowed money. So what I mean is money that's been borrowed over a significant length of time. They can't up them with too much severity, because it would cause people getting liquidated. Essentially, it would cause a lot of people not being able to service that debt anymore, and this all has a negative effect on the economy. So they're walking a tightrope. The Bank of England have moved before the US. The US are planning on doing it, but certainly once they've stopped all the stimulus to the economy, if you will, they said they're going to run that into sort of March, February. And then we've got the Turkish Lira. Now this is interesting because markets are in extreme fear. Well, imagine if you were holding the Turkish Lira through all this. Bitcoin and crypto, altcoins potentially, but certainly Bitcoin wouldn't be that much of a fearsome asset to hold due to the fact that your currency, your fiat system that your government has told you have to use, is being devalued at an extortionate rate. And there's lots. The Turkish Lira is a very interesting case because the Erdogan essentially has religious beliefs and he thinks interest rates are bad. It's no. I've done a lot of looking into currencies and how we've got to where we are today. I'm working on putting a tangible timeline from as far as I can go back to ancient Greece. You can actually get some currencies that were circulating before then, all the way up to where we are today. I'm working on doing a timeline so that I can show you guys with a physical example of currencies that were actually there in the time, some 3,000 years old, of when we first have our currencies that we can get our hands on to where we are today. And there's lots of very revealing and interesting things within that. It's kind of sad, but it will give you guys a really good idea of how we are where we are today and why Bitcoin is so revolutionary, because it's the first time we've had a currency system, a store of value that can't be tampered with in terms of the monetary supply and so on and so forth. So the Turkish Lira, if you compare this with the dollar, you can see the dollar is a lot stronger. The Great British Pound is actually stronger than the dollar. And you can see, you know, certainly if you look at this, for example, and we go from the percentage of our prior high to where we are today, that was 130% for the US dollar. You know, it's always good to do this. Certainly if you are not using the US dollar, you're in a currency that doesn't use the US dollar, you can see that 137%. So Bitcoin's actually gained more against the dollar than it has the pound. So I'm in the UK, which is why I don't mind holding. We don't have this for the Canadian dollar, but you can see the Canadian dollar, Bitcoin's actually holding up even better than it is on the Great British Pound and the Euro. The Great British Pound and the US dollar. The Euro is a lot more similar to the US dollar, and we'll do the same thing here. And then I'm going to love and leave you guys just some interesting things to bear in mind. You know, if we look at the Euro, for example, that's significantly weaker against Bitcoin historically than both the pound and the dollar. And we'll take a look at the Turkish Lira. This is going to be interesting, guys. So Bitcoin is not just a store of value against the pound, but a store of value against monetary systems around the world. You can see that's 888%. These are all interesting things that I hope you guys enjoy me showing you. You know, I look at markets from all angles. So you can see that's gone up 885% in opposition with the euro at 147%, and in opposition with the Great British Pound at 130%. And the dollar. So actually the Great British Pound has gained less against Bitcoin, certainly if we go from our prior high in 2017 to where we are now. So it's the Great British Pound actually serves as a better hedge against Bitcoin as some of these other currencies. And this is all related to what we talk about daily with monetary policy and stuff like that and the Forex market. So it's all very interlinked. We've got the Rand here, but that doesn't seem to want to show us. What we'll do is we'll use the March 2020 low to where we are today. That's 1,038%. So nearly the same as what the Turkish Lira did at a higher point. Certainly if we look and we go down here, you know, you can see that there's a substantial difference. So something to bear in mind, Bitcoin is a real hedge, not just against the US dollar. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the dollar milkshake theory. It's very interesting. It essentially means that people are going to flock to the dollar due to the fact that their currencies they're going to almost Bitcoin the dollar against their own currency. So they're going to use Bitcoin in this analogy being the dollar and their currencies being the fiat systems, and they're going to flush into something that they think holds a lot more strength and value. Remember, if you are, and Turkish Lira is a really sad case, I'm not a fan of inflation at all, even though I'm a crypto investor and it benefits me very well, which is why I'm not worried about more lockdowns, because ultimately we'll see this, they'll have to stimulate the economy, and the only really way that they can do that is with stimulus and QE and printing money and pumping it into the economy to try and keep it afloat and to support everybody. Very good for Bitcoin, bad for people that earn a wage, including myself. You know, I still take money in my business, and ultimately that's why I'm all in crypto essentially, because for me it's a perfect hedge against the proliferation that's going on. So I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. A bit of a different video. You know, when we look at something like the Ftse, you know, you can see that had a bit of a down day today. This is something certainly to pay attention to, because if you know, the future is very much governed by what's going on global events, and certainly with healthcare and the kind of state that everywhere's in, because this has an ultimate effect, more than interest rate hikes, on the economy, because monetary policies will come after this. So interest rates that are being set now are secondary from what happened in March 2020. So this is the main thing to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on interest rates. This is the thing that I've been saying plenty of times in my videos. The interest rate hikes that they're going to do are going to be very minuscule. And the reason being, again, is because everyone's so leveraged and if they said, okay, right, we're going to up interest rates to You can see this is the interest rate. Bank of England has raised interest rates to 0.5% from 0.1%. You can see that there's no way we could get back above sort of 5%. If we did, that would have devastating effects on the housing market, the stock markets, you name it, because it would take a huge amount of liquidity in the form of borrowed money off the table. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. I hope you found this interesting, informative. Canada's looking to follow suit as well. So remember, when you're looking at these, they all have their own monetary policies that are attached with their fiats. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. Enjoy your Saturday. I'll catch you a bit earlier on today or a bit later on today. And certainly I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents.